Today's agenda has been all about these things. We've already done the retail price comparison. We did the truly inspirational story, I think, you'll find, or hopefully did find, of British Cycling and how the principles that they used to utterly transform that sport can be completely applied to your business, and you too could benefit from the genuinely enormous effects that it can have for you. This session is going to be about price competition and how to do it. We're going to be looking at the principles of price competition and the consequences of those principles on what you should do and how you should go about it. And that then will feed into the last session of the day. I'm really going to get practical on that and actually show you some examples of things that you could do. So, price competition and how to do it. Breaking it down into a few areas. Firstly, what it is and how to do it well, the right way to go about it. An interesting one, how to become internet proof. It's the internet's competition. Oh, is it? One that's probably worth talking about for a little while because it does demonstrate quite a good number of really useful points about selling IT. We'll talk about Tesco's exit from the market, and just talk a little bit about that and whether or not that could be an advantage for you or not. And then just recap on some of the major issues to do with bad pricing. So, price competition, how to do it well. Just stand back a bit, because what it's all about is your relationship between price is pretty complex. This morning I asked the question about what is price for, and a number of people came up with different things. One was about, well, price sets my reputation in the market. It really positions me in customers' eyes compared to my peers. And yes, it does. Somebody else said, well, price relates to profit. And yes, it does indeed, because the amount that you charge is obviously relates directly to the amount of profit that you create. So there are a number of angles on why price matters. The way customers perceive you will be affected by your pricing, and so on and so forth. I'm going to shut that door. This relationship isn't difficult. If you master those issues, you'll know any plans you've got about how you run your business and how you might be looking to change or affect prices will be sensible and coherent. And as we saw from this morning, especially if you've done the retail price comparison, you can really target promotions. You can find out where you've got opportunities to exploit gaps in pricing between what you charge and big guys charge. You can take that to the market and really have a strong message. I want to talk about this thing called value for a little while. And a great place to see value really play out is if you go to an auction. And it doesn't have to be a fine art auction, because people buy second-hand cars, people buy houses, they buy slums. I've been seeing on TV lately there's even unclaimed baggage from aircraft. People pay for all kinds of things, and auctions sell all kinds of things. And one thing that you see happening in all of these different contexts, whether it's fine art through to broken pieces of baggage, there's bidding going on, and prices going up, and people pulling out. And why are they pulling out? They're pulling out because they don't believe what they're about to buy is worth paying any more for, whereas other people do. And an auction really, really demonstrates and brings into stark reality what value is all about. Different people value things in different ways. Different people see value in different things in different ways. And it's definitely, it exists, it's real. There's another way of looking at value. I don't know whether you've seen this before, but I always like it. I think it's quite amusing. Good service cheap won't be fast. Good service fast won't be cheap. And fast service cheap won't be good. I think those statements, Shane's not a better graphic anyway, I think those statements really encapsulate this whole idea of what value is all about. Yeah, good customers don't want cheap, and neither do you really. From your perspective, is it right that your prices would be lower than somebody that you consider to be a coward? Should you charge less than them? Exactly. And by the same token, should you cost more than people that you would consider better than you? What would they think about that? Because really it's the same thing, just from a different perspective. The issue is about being clear on what your value is and being able to articulate it convincingly to others. And we'll be looking at that in a lot more detail later in this session, and also that in the next one, because that's the bit I think where it gets a bit difficult. How do I explain I'm better qualified? Yeah? How do I do that in a way that people would actually warm to rather than me just sounding like I'm boasting? Yeah, if customers complain about the price, do they really understand the value? I've never visited you before. If I didn't know that you were possibly a really good IT retailer. Yeah? Great customer support, tremendous pre-sales advice, thriving newsletter. I come into your shop and I pick up my dear friend here that I keep using as an example, and I see that's £25. I think it's gone up. Yeah, that's gone up. And I think that's a bit steep. That's a bit steep. Yeah? Well, maybe I don't understand why you're charging £25 for it. Maybe the bit that it's gone up is the fact that, well, in actual fact, I take this out of the box before you get it and I test it to make sure that it's reliable. Yeah? Maybe that's value that they don't understand, because if they never visited you before, they don't know what you're like.
You've already got a box and you've got per quid each.
Yeah.
So they might have one with one.
Indeed. Yeah, everyone sees things differently. If prices fairly represent your whole value, objections don't have to be about the fact that the price is wrong. People just don't understand why it costs what it does. Another way to look at this is a bit about the chimps and gremlins that I spoke about in the last session. You know? Price objections are normal. It happens all the time. But the problem is that two things are going on. They make us feel a bit wrong. Yeah? When in actual fact all it is somebody just taking a chance. Can you knock it down a bit for me, because I'd rather pay a bit less. Don't let them get to you. This is managing and controlling those chimps and gremlins, the stuff that the recycling team do. It's all just part of the banter. And you can't always be the cheapest. It's absolutely impossible. Because someone will be cheaper than you. All they've got to do is drop their price. Yeah? That's all they have to do. Price competition isn't about always being cheaper. If you want to play the game that way, all you need to do is be cheaper better on around half your range, because overall you are. Cheaper on more than half of your range, you're cheaper overall. But expect that to change, because it won't go unnoticed, and whoever it is you're competing against will reply. And things like this are normal. It's normal for price competition to work like this. But I would say, is that actually the way we want to run businesses at all anyway? I don't think it is. I'll come on to that a bit later. Who was here last year? Does anyone remember Angry Baby? Yeah? He's back. He's back. And he wants to make sure that you're really listening. Because what he's got to say is that if price is your USP, as I have had quoted to me in the past, then expect to be disappointed, because someone's going to beat you on it. Yeah? It can never be it's not a proper USP in the first place. Thank you, Angry Baby. A low price reputation will destroy you. If you think about it, being the cheapest is just completely incompatible with everything that you stand for. Yeah? On the one hand, professional expert, offering independent advice and guidance to people, willing to help and train, all those good things. Wants to go the extra mile. And yet, cheap as chips. Doesn't add up. People are quite prepared to pay for things if they feel they're better. This morning I spoke about the example, buying a book on Amazon. Yeah? Amazon doesn't say to you, do you want it tomorrow? Tell you what, you can have it tomorrow, there's no difference in price. Yeah? Amazon charges for it. In other words, if it's better, and better in that context is getting it tomorrow, you expect to pay a better price, you expect to pay more for it. It's easy to scare customers through price. The people who have not yet met you, who have talked to people that you have worked for, who tell them, yes, he fixed my such and such, changed my drive, and it cost 150 quid. Oh, what? 150 pounds? There's no way I'm going there. Yeah? Price can easily scare people off, and you'll never even get to know about it. So, if you seek price-aggressive customers, you're going to find them. Because they're always on the lookout for a bargain. Yeah? Part of what makes them tick is searching out the best price. And you'll get their infidelity. Yeah? Because if it's not you they're with, they'll be with anybody. Yeah? Who's making the best offer. and their carpet, because they'll all be moaning as well. Oh, yeah, your prices are better than both you and your customers think. How can I say that? I can say it with quite a lot of certainty. Remember this? This is the results of the price survey from this morning. Yeah? In all cases, across all major competitors, your basket is cheaper. Yeah, your basket is better priced than they are. Yet, and remember I spoke about the shopping preference surveys that I do? Unprompted, so this wasn't an answer that they could select, this was an answer that they gave freely. Yeah? 23% of those people, when asked what would make you use independent retailers more than you do now, said, yeah, I would do if they were more price competitive. Doesn't add up, does it? Doesn't add up. And the reason it doesn't add up is because these big guys are masters of illusion. Yeah? This is all about the use of a loss leader. This is all about them setting the agenda, picking products that they're going to sell below cost, promoting the hell out of them. Yeah? Remember the last presentation I talked to you about the average margin markup we know for Macklin's is 100%. We've got anecdotal evidence that says B&Q is 80%. They're making that money back in other ways. In other words, all the peripherals that they sell are way overpriced. And we know that, we can evidence that, we all know that through cables, don't we? PC World, for example. Yeah? It's happening in other places too. It's happening in other ways too. They do have no purchase advantage. Yeah? If you look at Macklin's as an example, and you take their total cost, so this isn't employment cost I'm talking about here, this is looking at the complete cost of the business, and you divide that cost by the number of employees. Every employee in that business needs to earn it £41,000 a year for it to break even. That's a huge amount of cost. It's a huge amount of cost. The only way they can get that back is by having a very large markup. Yeah? At 100% and 80% figure. We know, if you go into a co-op, I've got this actually from a co-op, what they're charging for Duracells versus what we sell them at. They're marking them up at 300+%, 400+%. I found out I did some work on the internet. Yeah? Milk, there's no money in milk. Wow. There isn't for farmers. Yeah? There isn't for farmers. The bulk actually of the money in milk goes to the milk processors. But look how much the supermarkets are making off the back of milk. A staple that supposedly there's no money in. Okay? These large businesses are really clawing back their overheads massively in all kinds of ways. We know no one's making a killing in the retail chain. Genuinely, no one is buying anything that much cheaper than you're getting it at. So, just thinking a little bit about the truth about their cost advantage. Let's say you buy, I don't know, back to this again. It's a pretty good friend, this, isn't it? Let's say now it costs £100. It's getting pretty good at this, isn't it? Let's say it costs £100. But through their purchasing power, the big chains buy them for 10% less. Let's assume Macklin, mark it up 100%. How much can you mark up by and still price match?
90.
90. That's £90. It's actually 80% as a markup figure. How many people in this room are marking up their products 80%?
Well, cables.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8%. Yeah. Because their markup on cables is in the thousands. On average. 80% to match Macklin. What about B&Q, who are only marking, well, it's anecdotal, but they're only marking up 80%. Let's say they also buy at 10% less than you, but they mark up 80%. Then you can go up 62%. That's still price match. Again, it's marking up 62%. Maybe some more of you, but certainly not everybody. Okay? So these are margin-greedy businesses, exceptionally margin-greedy businesses that are clawing back money from the consumer, left, right, and centre. Okay, low prices give money away. Yeah, this was the chart from this morning which showed about how discounting works with sales to break even. Yeah? And in here, what this is showing is if you're selling 7% less than you could by just being reasonably priced for the rest of your peers, you've got to sell nearly half as much again. Yeah? The point we made this morning was about even 3% Imagine what you could charge assembling the business with 15% more volume every single day, just by not being priced a little bit more. So discounting murders profits, it really does. Knocking 10% off sounds so innocent, doesn't it? But then, and it delivers really marginal sales. In the retail price comparison workshop this morning, I spoke about one of the really interesting findings that we've got, which is the nature of how price and volume work across the range, where you might expect a relationship along those lines, where price and sales vary fairly evenly. What we've got here is something that says in actual fact it's really flat. We haven't talked about the fact that that's down to the fact that IT is not a commodity. Yeah? Customers need advice and guidance. They're looking for a trusted source of unbiased guidance so that they know when they make their purchasing decision, it is the right one. You've got something I want. Yeah? But how do you stem? How do you take them on? Well, you've got things that they would honestly kill for. Yeah? There's certain things about your business that make you utterly unique. Certain things that these are your genuine sources of competitive advantage. Okay? These are the things on which you should be marketing and selling your business because they can't compete with you. You know what they are, you can read them for yourself. But they honestly would kill for them. And it's all real, this stuff. It's genuinely real. There's a sizable portion of the market that wants to buy and shop local, that does care about local independent businesses. You know, it's real. This exists. Again, from the shopping preference surveys that I've done with customers, 80% would prefer to buy from you. When asked which would they prefer, shopping from a big chain or a local independent retailer, 80% said that's what they prefer to do. We've done with these. Yeah, 90% believe that you're more important to the local community. Your challenge is showing that, yeah, you care about the local community. That becomes your marketing challenge. What can I do that shows that I'm interested in those things? We'll have a look at that a bit later. Yeah, 80% believe that you care more about customers and service. Okay, again, your challenge is to show them that that is true. Okay? And it's not by the customers you already know. You've got to do this in a way that so people who have never yet met you can make that assessment. And that becomes quite interesting when you think about it. It's possible to do. So, here's some examples about how you might do that. Yeah? Use it, don't lose it, as I say. Support local independent retailers. A poster in your window. An icon on your website. Something at the bottom of an email. Yeah? Poster inside your shop. Play to people's minds. Or do things like that. Advertise the fact that you are an independent computer specialist. You're not selling them. The product is you. That's what you're selling. Yeah? In fact, this is doing a number of things. It's proclaiming your independence. Yeah? I don't work for a big chain. I'm not motivated by sales. I don't receive a sales bonus for how much I sell you. I'm entirely independent. If you come to me, what I'll recommend to you is what's best for you. So that's my independence side of it, but look what's going on down here. Yeah, I'm an expert. I'm calling myself a computer repair specialist. If you want to come and talk to me about that, I'll explain to you why. Qualifications, the experience I've got, and so on. And when it comes to the big multiples, it's not you that can. It's not you that can't compete with them. Yeah. It's that they can't with you. What does that mean? Well, let's think about this. If you would stick some of the examples I've given previously around why pay more for batteries or cables rip-off, yeah, examples in a shop window, and there's nothing in there that's untrue. There's actually no basis for any legal challenge. So nobody's going to do anything. Nobody will take you to task on that. Besides, listen to the TV. Listen to what Asda says about Sainsbury's. Yeah? The big guys are doing it all the time. Provided they're telling the truth, there's nothing legal about it. All it is telling customers what's real. That's all there is to it. And you can do the same. It's all that I'm asking you to do, is find the opportunities where you can tell customers the truth. And besides, even if they did, whose side is the public on? Yeah? two sides of the public eye. Them, the big guys, or you? A few nods. Public sentiment is far more involved. We proved it through our shopping surveys. But the stuff that Mary Portas does, the demise of the high street. People are concerned about local independence. And here's the real cruncher for this, because they aren't set up to be able to actually respond either. They're not, an individual PC world is not set up like a profit centre. It's not a mini business in its own right. The manager is not the managing director with a sales and marketing function, with a new product development function. They're not running it like a business. The manager in the store makes sure it opens on time, makes sure it's clean, that enough staff are on site, and that the products are being stocked on the shelves. That's what managing a department store, or PC world, or even a supermarket, that's what they do. So if you actually mount a local marketing campaign that points out prices are perhaps not as good as they should be at any of these, they are utterly powerless to respond. Utterly powerless to respond. Which makes them a good target to go after, rather than each other, who can respond. Okay, so the right way to compete on price. We take all the things we've just been spoken about, and think about the consequences, what that means. I work on a simple phrase, know your enemy, pick your battles and go on the offensive. I think that really kind of sums up what the game's about. Knowing your enemies is about knowing your competitors' prices. Don't think you know them, know them. Yeah? Go and see them for yourself. Now, if you're worried about doing that, well, what happens if I get found out? Yeah, do you remember what I said this morning? Well, you've got a reputation for being a good independent retailer. What I was doing was just coming along and seeing what I could learn from what you do. There's nothing wrong with that. Besides, mystery shopping is something that big guys have been doing for years. It is standard business practice. There is nothing covert or underhand about doing any of this. Don't copycat their pricing, because you don't know how good it is anyway. Think about positioning it. How does their outfit stack up against yours? Are they better than you or worse than you? Because if they're better than you, you should be cheaper than them. And if they're worse than you should be more expensive. Use that understanding when you sell. Learn to articulate and explain why your prices are what they are, and when you're talking to customers. What better way when somebody comes in and says, for example, how much for Windows 7? And you're able to say, well, apart from all the stuff around, what are you using it for and why do you want it? And, you can say, well, here we go, here it is, boxed. For sake of argument, it's 90 quid. Yeah? I know down in the PC world are selling it for 120 for the sake of argument. There's a small supplier just up the other end of the high street here who's doing it for about £5 more than I am, and the guy down the road is £1 less. What kind of impression does that create in a customer's mind about your price consciousness?
You're not trying to hide.
Pardon?
You're not trying to hide behind you.
You're not trying to hide, and that you are price conscious. And suddenly, everything else in the shop becomes a price conscious item as well, because if you're price conscious on that, surely you are on everything else. Adopt the right response. What does that mean? Well, there's an issue you need to take on. There's this prevailing beliefs that exists between these two things. We know the prices are good. Yeah? Retail price comparison has shown that twice in a row. Yet, unprompted, customers tell us they would prefer to use you, so they would use you more, get it right, they would use you more if you were more price competitive. There's a prevailing belief around that isn't true. And it's all down to the old lost leaders. So how do you go about dispelling that? How do you go about dispelling that? What can you do? Stand in the street and say it's not true. Yeah? Don't believe a word. Obviously not. So, here's a couple of things. Where you are clearly price advantaged, go head to head. So thinking about the price comparison, the retail price comparison this morning, and that exercise we went through to identify where there are opportunities, where you find you have a genuine price opportunity on an item that might actually matter to a customer, as we spoke about a one-word speaker this morning, it possibly isn't the most attractive product to do that on. Yeah? But if it was something like cables, something like a fast-moving item like batteries, any other item for that matter, go head to head. What do I mean? Where is it? There it is. Lee's done a good example of this. He does it in his shop on his counter. Okay, I don't know if you can see it or not, but he's got cables, speakers, routers, RAM, and USB flash. The prices are a little bit out of date, and he's also got comment on here, so he's clearly living in another universe from the one we're in at the moment, but be that as it may. And it's a price comparison. If anyone comes in and says, oh, well, I'm not sure about that, here we go. Well, let's just talk through pricing. That's the item, that's what it costs. I'm just pricing at a fair price for what the item is. Really powerful. Just simple item. And you've also got more sort of feisty ways of doing things, by sticking big posters in your window or graphics on your website that insinuate that prices might not be as good as people might think they are. Yeah? But that's the whole point. Be feisty, go on the offensive. Where you have clear price advantage, where you haven't discounted yourself into the ground, in fact you've gone beneath the ground, yeah? Where you've gone through the exercise to find a price that's absolutely right for you and good and is returning you good margin, and you still find that there's an opportunity to take on the big guys, those are the places to look. Those are the places to think about. Not every product will be relevant, but some will. Picking your battles. This is a good one because this applies more to the headliners. The stuff we'd really love to be more price competitive on, but it's actually very hard to, because the big guys dictate the agenda. They choose these items to lead on. So stuff like your laptops, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Where you're price disadvantaged, in other words, where there isn't much price difference, or indeed where in actual fact you just cannot match, you're slightly worse. Do this thing called boxing clever. Yeah, there's some pun in there of boxing and bungling. Or fighting, that's another one. Okay, our friends at Crossgates, another good example. Okay, the pricing, I think it's a bit out of date, but look what's going on. Yeah, my laptop's expensive. Oh, hang on. When I sell your laptop, these are all the things I do. These are the other things I do. And when you look at what the other retailer will charge for those, suddenly, I ain't so expensive. Yeah? Suddenly, I'm not so expensive. And again, I think this is another one you've got on your counter. Yeah. A good sales device. Okay? Great to turn it into a poster. Remember, this is in the store, so it's only with people who have come in. What about all the people who have yet to come in? You can simplify that, juice up the graphics a bit, turn it into a lovely big window display. Perfectly valid, selling the fact that you are price conscious on a major headline item, because you provide a complete solution, a complete service. Not everyone will want that, but an awful lot of people will. Yeah? Here's another take on it. It's an idea I just came up with. Probably pull it apart if you tried. Okay, new laptops, inclusive of 2 free health checks on every 6 months, and 2 free deep virus scans. Yeah, sort of playing the same game. The laptop price was $285, but when you include what PC will charge for those kinds of services, it's suddenly $400. Me? I'll do it for $375. You have disguised, you have defended the fact that your price ain't so good underneath it by adding value. Adding value. Things that matter to the customer. And in particular, what's good about both of these is the fact that they are services. Yeah? Because you can't already have services, you can't already have them. Yeah, well, if you can buy my laptop, I'm bundling it with a bag and a bit of memory and an external drive and all this other stuff, and the customer says, got all that already. Yeah? They won't already have setup, they won't already have data transfer, they won't already have a health check, yeah? They won't already have a virus scan. These are things that are being supplied that they don't have. What's interesting with these as well, I mean, these are 2 examples, neither is right or wrong, but they just play in different ways. This is all about selling value add here and now when you buy the product. Yeah? This is about selling value add in the future. So with this one, what you get is the future opportunity to talk to the customer again. Because when you sell this, you say, well, in order for you to be able to take up the offer that I'm making you, I need your contact details. I'll call you in 6 months' time when it's time for your health check. And we can talk about when you can come in and book your computer in. Now, whether they actually do or not is a different matter. But you have a point in time in the future when you can re-establish contact with that customer, continue the relationship, talk about how things are more generally, mention any other things that you want to, maybe about services that you're doing, events that you're running, products that you now stock that you didn't when they bought it. So, incredibly powerful, reaching into the future, creating a date in the future for a future opportunity in the nicest possible way to sell more. Okay, then going on the offensive. So we've chosen our battles, what we're going to what we're going to fight about. Yeah, every time you sell on price, sell on value. Be constantly reaffirming who you are and what you're worth. Apart from standing there and saying, when you're talking to a customer, I'm a local independent computer repair specialist. Yeah, you don't do that. Paul wrote a very good blog called How to Sell Your Worth and Value, which is all about a broken boiler. Yeah? What happens? The boiler's broken. You don't know a plumber. What do? Get the yellow pages out, find 3 plumbers, call them up, find out what they'll charge, pick the cheapest. Pretty easy, isn't it? Now all of that's going according to plan. You ring the first one, perfectly nice guy. Cool, doesn't matter. Very friendly, very polite. What's wrong? Okay, yeah, for me to come out is X. Repair for that sort of boiler, probably in the order of Y. You phone the second one. Perfectly nice person again. Oh yeah, yeah, okay, fine. Call out is Z. Cost of repairing it is A. Doesn't really matter what the numbers are. You get to the third one, and the third one starts off just the same, and then says, how long have you had the boiler? Oh, sorry, what model is the boiler? Such and such. So back in 2000. Oh right, so that's about 15 years old. Good boiler, that really reliable machine. Right? So what's the problem with it? Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I've heard of that before. Funny enough, I was only preparing one of those just recently. That's what we're talking about. Yeah? Tell you what, with the kind of problem you've got, we can go through the restart cycle of this boiler. I can talk you through it, it's dead easy to do. You've got 5 minutes to spare because that's all it will take. Okay? Talks you through the restart cycle. It doesn't work. Okay, yeah, sounds like this is a call out. I'm afraid my prices are A and B. Now, funny enough, A and B cost more than the other two. Yeah, which is the plumber that you're more likely to go with?
C.
You're going to feel inclined to go for C, aren't you? Yeah. Unless price is absolutely an overriding factor. You're going to feel inclined to go for C. Because by having that chat, by talking to the customer in that way, all that experience and expertise has just been nicely laid out. All that customer care has just been laid out. The way that I would work with you as a customer has just been laid out. Whereas the other two I don't know, they might be complete twats. Yeah? They might be really nice people. They sounded good on the phone, but when they turn up, they might smell. There could be all sorts of things going on. You know? This person sounds really reasonable, really good, knows their stuff, really helpful. Yeah, I'm going to use it. So that's what I mean by selling your value. So I say there's a blog on that, how to sell your worth and value, and he goes into the detail. Like 3 plumbers as an exercise. That's how you do it. Because as I said before, you can't stand there and say, excuse me, could I just remind you I'm an independent computer repair specialist? It sounds stupid. Going on the offensive. Yeah, be conspicuous, assertive, and feisty. What does that mean? That's kind of this stuff. Conspicuous, big colour signs in your windows, on your website, painted on the side of your car if you want. But you need to make a noise. Remember, the prevailing belief, 23% of the public would use you more if you were more price competitive. Hang on, someone's got the wrong end of the stick here. Now, they're not going to get the right end of the stick by you knowing that that's wrong and not doing anything about it, are they? Yeah? The only way it's going to happen is if you start to say, excuse me, what you thought true isn't. And these are the kinds of ways in which you can do that. Okay, how to become internet proof. Several angles on this, our dear friend, the internet. Right, I think the first one to get to is the fact that the internet is not competition. And it's not competition for a host of reasons, but one of them is the fact that you can't compete with it. People who buy from the internet are already buying from the internet. The only time you get to know when it might be a point of competition is when somebody turns up on your doorstep and says, I can get it on the internet for this. But even then, that's a very different proposition. Because why haven't they already bought it? You know, there's something going on. Either they can't get it fast enough, they don't quite trust the supplier, you name it. There's a whole lot of reasons which put you in a different place. Because you're giving them value and confidence. Sorry, you're giving them confidence and therefore value that they don't get on the internet itself. So it isn't strictly competition. It's an entirely different customer proposition. It's a bit like the Argos model. Yeah? This is about transactors. I know enough about computers. I'm perfectly capable of deciding what new laptop I need, or what external drive I need, or what USB, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I know my stuff. It's not I don't like you. It's not I think you're rubbish. It's just I don't need you. Yeah? That's all they're saying. And people are going on the internet, and to some extent there are people who know what they're doing, and there's other people, of course, who are playing on the internet that we all know make bad decisions. Be that as it may. There's little to reassure the customer either. And it's low priced, yeah, because there is no value add. About the most value add you get is reviews that customers have written about the business themselves. Yeah? About the product. Well, it arrived on time, it wasn't broken, and yeah, it works okay. That's fine, that tells me about that, it doesn't tell me about the business. And it's low price because it is pure competition. These marketplaces, Amazon, eBay, the Tesco site, somebody else will be surprised, the Tesco site is a marketplace as well, would you believe, and operates. The only way that people can mark themselves out from anybody else is on price. It's a ruthless, horrible place to be. I don't know if we've got any customers in here at the moment who are mainly internet-based, but I know that they view the world in a particular way. It is a hard world that they're in. It's not the answer to everybody's woes, getting an eBay shop. So, being internet-proof. Can you price match it? Not really. Because we've seen how if you start discounting, how that rips profit out of the business really, really fast. Yeah, it'll bring in the wrong customers. You just get the price hounds, so you get the people who are looking for the cheapest all the time. And it goes back to, again, this business to do with your reputation. It is entirely incompatible with everything that you stand for, to be the cheapest, to be cheap, to match even the internet. Yeah? Because are you worth more than the internet? Yes, you are. Maybe the customer sees it differently, but you are worth more. Instead, stress and be proud that you have better service. Be able to explain that clearly. Don't be afraid. It sounds a bit platitudey, doesn't it? Let's find out what that means. Okay, so there he is. I can get it cheaper on the internet. Metaphorically, it is a gun to you, isn't it? What are you going to do about it? Breathe deeply, put the gremlins and the chips to one side, and say, I'd love to help you, but you need to understand the differences. And then go on to explain the fairness of your pricing and that you're not actually seeking to be greedy, you're just charging what's reasonable. How do you do that? Right. I have staff, premises and stock to upkeep, but they don't. Well, that's your choice, isn't it? This is where it gets clever. This is where you need to start saying things like, so you can touch and see my products, they're here. Yeah? It's not just an image on a website. That's value in that. You can discuss and try it out before you buy. Yeah? I can have a go with this. It's actually got quite a nice feel because I like the way the buttons work. Yeah? And I take the batteries out. Yeah, that's good. I like that. That feels like it's actually been well made rather than tacky. Yeah? Which I'll only know once I've bought it and it's come through the post. You can discuss and try things before you buy rather than rely on the website blurb. Is the website blurb going to say, this is a cheap and tacky product, but when you buy it, you'll feel like you've got rubbish? Of course it is. Of course it is. It's going to flog it, isn't it? If you like, I can help make certain that you are buying the right thing. You are making the right decision. Yeah? You don't have to rely on their sales speak. Yeah? Because sales speak is unbiased. Typically not. More things to say. Oops. Should anything go wrong, in the unlikely event that anything should go wrong, I'm here, not only available at the end of the phone, You can come and look at me in my eyes. Yeah? That kind of says something about how confident I am. I'm not going to sell you rubbish. Do I want to have an argument with you? Not really. And and you won't have to send anything away. There's nothing going to get lost or broken in the post. Which it does. Not every time, of course. But sometimes it does. And how disappointing is that when you've been looking forward to receiving a nice new, whatever they call these things, and you turn up and it's busted. Oh, shit, I can't use it. I needed it for tomorrow. Damn it. I'm going to have to go and buy it from a shop instead. Yeah, you can buy it from me here and now. There's huge value in that. I've got it in stock. There it is. Try it out. Like it? Take it. Not wait and get it dropped, shipped to you. That's always a nice little one to add in as well. Because I don't actually, as the internet provider, I don't have the stock. It's some third party somewhere else who doesn't have any relationship with you. Now, how much are they going to care about the product? Come see and talk to me anytime. Face to face. About anything. We are here to help. And yeah, I'll keep you up to date with alerts, virus alerts, and upgrades or advice on your software and your computer. I'm not in the game of spamming you with saying things. So a whole load of things that you can say that really bring to life the fact that having a shop with staff actually amounts to a huge amount of value. A whole load of reasons why you can't be the same price as the internet. Because there's worth it. There's a huge amount. I'm still waiting for this to go. In fact, why not go with the whole hog when it comes to the guys on the internet, or the people who are shopping on the internet, I should say. Why not go out of your way, get feisty, invite them in. Yeah, internet shopping, free advice given. Why would I want to do that? What I'm doing is spending time for customers to go and spend their time buying something that I won't be able to sell to them. Well, all I would say is, would you prefer to have the chance to build a relationship with people or not? Yeah? You've got a chance here to turn things around. There's a customer in the room at the moment who used to sell, who when confronted with people who came in saying that they could buy a particular computer from Dell, would say, well, go ahead, I can do the virus transfer. That's a good one, isn't it? I can do the data transfer. Yeah? I can help set it up for you, which is all value add. But he changed his approach and he turned it into, which model are you looking at? Let's call it up, let's have a look. Started looking at what they were actually proposing to buy, chatting through what they were going to be using it for, and more often than not, finding that in actual fact the machine they were proposing to buy wasn't necessarily the best one for them. That in itself generates more sales. If it doesn't ultimately lead to you getting that sale, it certainly repositions you in that customer's mind as somebody who pretty well knows what they're talking about. Tesco. It really helps. It's particularly poignant for my person here. Yeah. Are you aware that Tesco are planning on pulling out of consumer electronics?
No.
Sorry? Was that a no? No, you won't. All right.
Tesco is opening a shop in my town.
Yeah, that's interesting. This was June the 5th. Tesco's financial statement shows monthly sales have declined. Consumer electronics has been specifically singled out by Chief Executive, Philip, whatever his name is, Clark, as a sector that takes up a lot of space without creating a lot of profit. That's interesting. Yeah, and it goes on, and it talks about the fact that they're going to get back to doing what they do best. Did you know that they started a £99 computer repair service about 9, 12 months ago? No?
Yeah.
So it got trialled. We don't know where it got trialled. It was certainly mentioned.
Swindon as well, yeah.
Was it? Thank you. Lo and behold, it has utterly disappeared. You can't find it. We've got a web address, because we were looking at it and we thought, oh Jesus, what's this? It's going on here. All we've got left is a rather crappy image of what the website looked at. It was cached in memory somewhere. Yet it's disappeared. If you go to that web address, you get one of those domain hosting messages that comes up. It no longer exists. Why? Well, despite being a huge brand, people just don't buy this stuff. They don't expect a supermarket to start selling these kinds of products and services. It doesn't mean to say that people weren't buying completely. I'm sure there were some people who were quite happy to go into a Tesco and buy a laptop. But by and large, no. Yeah, we've already talked about this morning. Selling consumer electronics and IT takes more than price. It does not fit the box shifting model. That's what these guys are good at. Yeah? Getting stuff that people don't need advice and guidance to make a purchase decision and merchandise it well. Yeah? Classically, of course, it's food, isn't it? Yeah, and that's what they said. Repurposing. Grand, big corporates do this. Means we can't make any money out of it, so we're going to stop. Going back to what we do best. It was inevitable. It's a non-specialist business playing in a specialist space, in a particular market that demands knowledge, services, so knowledge to help people make sure that they're buying the right purchases, I should say, services, things like the virus, the performance checks, all of those sorts of things, upgrades, and customer support. Yeah? Large multiples are margin greedy in a sector with incredibly tight margin. It doesn't fit their model. There's 36% on milk, on a laptop, 5, 8 maybe. It's a hard return to make, especially when people need milk every day. It flies out of a shop like nobody's business. What they're good at is far more profitable business. So I think what they're good at is far more profitable business. In other words, being a grocer will give them far more return than being a consumer electronics store. So it's no surprise really what's happened. Now we're clearly chancing their arm, perhaps foolishly. Perhaps they've got the money to be able to do that. Shareholders will probably have something to say about that. So, on the cycling analogy, you won that race. You won that race, they can't compete with you.
Do you think we'll see others?
That's a really good question.
As to what not?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We don't know. But it must be hurting them too. It must be hurting them too. It must be hurting the Asda's and Sainsbury's of this world. Because Tesco's a successful retailer, successful volume retailer. It's Britain's biggest supermarket, isn't it?
Greediest.
Greediest as well, yeah. Causes a lot of comment. Tescopoly, isn't it? It's a book. So you've won that race. Oh, I'm not going backwards, I'm going forwards. So, there's opportunity here. I haven't thought through quite exactly how you would take advantage of it, but you could be the consumer electronics department. If you've got a Tesco that's nearby to you, just think about how you can market and sell your business and play to people who are out on the Saturday shop with the family. Yeah? Conspicuous promotions that do things like play to families. So, stereotyping a little, mobile phones for mum, games for the kids, gadgets and gizmos for dad. Anything you can do to promote that kind of feel and look for your business, if you're close by, gives you an opportunity. Because these guys are pulling out of it. You don't know what time it is in that. And again, why should I come to you? It's all about going back to stressing services and customer care, customer support, which is a basic principle of competing with the internet. The true cost of bad pricing. Right, the true cost of bad pricing. So thinking about how price and sales really work, did anyone see this morning? Because during that first session we spoke about the relationship between sales and price. So a few people missed. Yeah, okay. Generally speaking, you'd expect a fairly straight line relationship. Yeah, and all I've got charted up here is for every decrease, 1% decrease in price, I get 1% increase in sales, because that's what we expect. Price goes down, sales go up, and the converse. You get a line like that. When we looked at the data from our survey in November or October of last year, that's what we got. We got a really flat relationship. In other words, as you reduce price, you've got a little bit of business, but it's really quite small. And I think the point was around 15% below the margin, below the average, was only delivering about 3% more satisfaction. Then we looked at June. Got that relationship. Now, I wouldn't suggest that there's anything sort of meaningful in the difference between those two lines. I think what you need to look at is the combination of those two lines. And what that's telling us is, within sensible boundaries, maybe plus or minus 15% on pricing, the relationship between price and volume is almost absent. The dropping price, based on this this research evidence, dropping price in no way is going to win you the business that you'd hope it would. No, so what it means is it's a net outflow of cash for the business. And it's not just your reputation that's online. Remember that how you set prices affects how people perceive you. And if you're perceived as being too high or too low, that will lose you custom. If you're perceived as being just right, that will win you custom. Remember, that's all from a reputational perspective. That's all from the outside looking in. What about the inside looking out? Profit was mentioned this morning as a really important component of price. You need to make money. And the one thing I did talk about this morning was this issue of being slightly below 3% was the figure I used, 3% below what you could reasonably charge when compared to your peers, the data that we get through the price comparison. And that puts a permanent burden on your business of having to sell 15% more volume. That puts a permanent burden on your business of denying it an additional 13% profit, which, because you're already surviving, is actually pure bottom line. All because, on average, you're 3% under. A marginal amount, and truly stupendous gain if you think about it from that marginal gains point of view. We looked at it as well from the point of view of changing business to break even. Yeah, bad pricing. If you're again underneath what you could be charging, this is the relationship between break even sales. So as you discount, of course, you're giving away money. You need to sell more to recoup that profit. Yeah. Depending on your markup, that relationship varies. The example we used this morning was that the device you buy at £10. Sell at 13, and then you decide either to add a pound or take a pound off its price. What does that mean to what you have to sell to keep making the same amount of profit? If you knock the price down just £1 or 7%, you need to sell nearly half as much again. But if you were to, it doesn't do the rates, okay. And I'll just let that one again. 3% less, it's a permanent burden. Bad pricing is a massive drain on business. Massive drain on business. So, this session, good, fast, cheap. We've spoken about the whole concept of value. It is alive and it is kicking. And it is really, really alive and kicking when it comes to IT products. We've spoken about some advantages that you've got over the big chains that they would quite honestly kill for. If they had these sorts of things, they could wipe the floor. The problem is they can't have them because they're not set up to, and they can be set up to deliver these sorts of things. Yeah? Picking your battles, where you're clearly price advantaged, not where you've discounted the hell out of yourself, where you're clearly price advantaged. These are opportunities to go head to head. Why? Because there's a prevailing belief out there that's wrong. And nobody will get to know about it unless something gets said. Yeah? So this is his whole point about getting feisty, pointing out to people that things are not necessarily what they think they are. And competing with the internet. Some words, some advice on little phrases to use. So when somebody comes in and points that gun at your head saying, whatever it costs this on the internet, you're armed with a whole set of things that you can say. Make out that you're not being greedy, in actual fact they'd be wiser purchasing from you. Lastly we spoke about Tesco and how that yet again reinforces the value that you have, the value in your businesses, the value in the services that you provide, the way you go about doing it. That's it for this session. I'm around again at the end of this one, just like all the others. If you're interested in any of the updates about blogs or any of the business advice that I give, please remember, if you are on Facebook, it's ShopTalk. On Twitter, it's @ShopTalk. Google Plus, it's ShopTalk. Pinterest, it's ShopTalk. LinkedIn, it's me under my name, John Coulter. Today's materials, the videos from today will shortly be on the YouTube channel, the target YouTube channel. and most of you in the room should have a business card by now. Any issue whatsoever, call me, email me. I'm more than happy to talk to you. Okay?